could provide information to people that were following.
That's interesting. That's an interesting development. I never knew that.
Which was not substantially different. That development is right out of what they were doing in Moldova and Iran. They kind of invented that idea.
And we're going to get to that because there's some interesting parallels there that are frightening because it's happening here in the United States, where when you read the newspapers. Well, we'll get to that. Now, what I want to know is what were you actually doing on Twitter? What were you doing there in Twitter Central?
What was my role?
Yeah, what was your role?
So my role was I went because it was a decentralized network. We didn't have to have a big office or anything like that, which was traditionally how these kind of things happen. So I'm a little bit older, so we got a hotel room. We decided not to sleep on the floor with a bunch of other people. We got a hotel room by the airport because it was the cheapest and the only place we could get a hotel room because of the G20 and the reporters. And what our role was to verify information. So somebody calls in and says, the Skillshare or the workshop on constitutional rights is going to be at 3 o'clock at the Merton Center. We don't want to really send that out because somebody just called it in without knowing if that's true. So my job would be to call the Merton Center or have them call me and say, yes, that's true, send it out. And we would send it. And then I would report back that we have verification. And then somebody else would send it out.
So people could trust the information they were getting.
Yeah, because there's always a problem with rumors. Because things happen so fast. And so there were legal people that were in the legal office, there were the food people, the events people, all these different people were in a live chat. And my job was to have a telephone so that they could call if they couldn't do it via computer and say, we have legal observers and what this person called in is true. That it's not just made up information.
So you could rumor control.
Rumor control. And that's
very important in that kind of situation. Now, according to the newspaper reports, in this room you had police scanners.
Yeah, there was a police scanner.
What's a police scanner?
So a police scanner is something you could buy at Radio Shack. It's perfectly legal. There's whole, which I didn't know until this whole flack, there's a whole sub-community of people that do nothing but listen to police scanners all day, and they put it up on the computer.
Freelance photographers and news people who I know use them all the time.
So we had a police scanner, to be perfectly honest. Again, we're not super technologically savvy, didn't really know how to use it, so we just went onto the websites that had the live streaming of the computer, the police scanner, to use it for verification.
So in other words, you don't even need scanners now. You go on the internet to the
police
didn't
know that.
Some other person is doing it.
Hey, right. I see. Yeah. That's interesting. So the scanners are basically the radios that the police, fire department, EMS type people are using.
The public radios. I mean, they have other encrypted radios. They also use cell phones and things like that for private communication.
So you were using publicly available, freely
that was on
access that many people use for all kinds of jobs and careers.
And you can there's even which I found out later, an iPhone application that you can have to listen to scanners in no matter where you are. GPS figures out where you are,
and then
they sell it. Apple sells it, $2.99.
So you can listen to scanners wherever you are.
Wherever you are.
Right. That's very
interesting. Because
interesting.
there's people that
are
that's
totally
their hobby.
into that, right.
Now,
like people who sit at the courthouse and watch trials.
Right. Now, I want to get more into detail about what happened. I'm going to jump over. I want to find out exactly what you were doing in that room, but before I want to jump ahead to what happened. The door got kicked in. What happened?
I don't know. I assume they got a pass key from the hotel. We wasn't clandestine. I mean, I had my own van out there. We registered under our own name. The hotel right next to us was the staging area for, I assume, out-of-state police, but I'm not sure. So there were police all over the place. But we're not doing anything illegal, so there's no reason to be
we weren't hiding.
We didn't have a bolt lock or a chain on our door. And they opened up the door and said, we're state police, and they had guns drawn. And they, at the time they didn't arrest us. They said, they did handcuff us and check us for weapons and stuff like that, which we didn't have. They didn't arrest us, but they said, you you're free to go. They did eventually unhandcuff us, me and my co-defendant. You're free to go, but you may want to watch to see us take your stuff so you can get a receipt for your stuff. But we could have left, but we didn't. We stayed because, again, we're not doing.
And what did they do? They seized all your equipment?
Yeah, I mean, equipment makes it actually sound a lot more.
I mean, the news was reporting it.
They seized 2 cell phones. My partner's cell phone and my cell phone.
You got more cell phones than that in this room right now.
Yeah, and they seized 1 laptop computer, which we had, and then we had another computer, old CPU that was still in the box that we didn't use because it didn't have a keyboard, it didn't have a mouse, it didn't have a power cord. Somebody had given us and said, "Oh, maybe you guys can use this because you only have 1 computer." And the police scanner, a Radio Shack, you know, $29 police scanner, and some headphones to be able to hear on the cell phone, and that's it. I mean, that is all that they seized. Oh, and then we had a road atlas in our van, which they seized
the road atlas.
Yeah, they seized a map of Pittsburgh. They seized all our phone numbers.
That were on your phone. That were on your phone. So
on our phone, but we also had phone numbers on the list because you know, people had to call us. We had to call them.
Right.
They seized, for some reason, a couple fast food menus. I'm not sure exactly why.
In case you'd like.
I guess maybe notes,
right?
And that was about it. You know,
now,
our
were you aware that you were under surveillance in any way, or you had no inkling of that?
I wasn't really worried about it. I wasn't thinking that, you know, I'd gone to a public meeting the day before and said, you know, we're 1 Twitter feed, Tin Cans Communications. There were 24 Twitter feeds going on. They just decided to target us. You know, there were Ron Paul people that had Twitter feed. The regular G20 had a Twitter feed. CNN had Twitter feed. Everybody had Twitter feeds, and there was live media.
It's very popular right now.
Yeah, so it wasn't. We weren't thinking that it was something that we had to be super clandestine.
Now, were you aiding protesters in escaping the police?
So the charges we got is we got me and my co-defendant. We received 2 felony charges. Now Pennsylvania is a little different than New York, so technically we haven't been arraigned, which is strange. That you know, it's all this time and we haven't been arraigned. So what we were arrested for, these are the charges, but we haven't been arraigned yet. So the charges are 2 felonies. One is hindering the prosecution or apprehension. The second one is exactly the same, except for using a telecommunications facility
in order
to do that. And then the last one is possession of an element of crime. And I believe that is the cell phone. Possession of an element of crime is taking something that's normally lawful, like a chair, but if I were to hit you over the head with it, then it becomes the element of crime. That's a misdemeanor. So the other 2 are felonies, and the other one's a misdemeanor.
What's the potential? What's the potential jail sentence there?
I don't know what the misdemeanor is, but for the 2 felonies, it would be 7 years apiece, and they could stretch it out, so it could be 14 years. They don't
Plus 1 year, usually 1 year so it'd be 15 years.
15 years probably.
15 years in prison for what we were just discussing, Johnny.
Well, I wanted to ask about one of the details of the case, which was that you were arrested early in the days of protest, or the days of the summit. So, are you being charged with what you did up to that point, or what they were afraid you were going to do later in the
No, what they charged us for is very specific. What they said is that because you can't just have you know, hindering a prosecution and apprehension of a crime, they have to actually specify what the crime is.
Crime would be.
And the crime is that shortly before we got arrested, there was a order to disperse at the park. Let's say that the meeting was at 2:30 and the order of dispersal comes at 3 and we get raided at 3:15 or something like